Hi everybody, I'm going to do a series of videos that we're going to take a look at gen maps and teach you how to diagnose what's going on in people's ministries and churches, and just take a look at their gen map and be able to do this. Probably one of the primary things that people are going to get out of these videos is how to do gen maps better themselves. But I know a lot of you are coaching people in iron on iron. And so this is a real skill to be able to look at gen maps and be able to diagnose what's going well, what needs improvement, and then how to coach and ask questions and help them get over the stuckology, the stuckages in in their ministry. Okay, so here we have a gen map. It's probably more oikos map, a relational network map, as it gets started. And so if this is an oikos map, it looks great. You know, we've got people that we can share with, and people on our relational network that don't know Jesus. This is perfect for an oikos map. But for a gen map, what does it tell us? Basically, not a whole lot. It tells us that we're working with some people, but there's not enough objective data in this gen map to really help us see what's going on. Now, word to the wise. This is a computer generated gen map. When people first start doing gen maps, just have them do it with paper and pencil. Don't worry about the computers. That could be a stumbling block. Now, once you've got several networks that you're trying to coach and do gen maps for, that's when this computer comes in handy, because you're not redrawing these things every single time. So this computer printout is just for training purposes only. When you first start, pen and pencil, paper, that's great. Okay, so we look at this gen map, and it doesn't tell us a lot. So what I'm going to do first is take you to a code that I've developed, and then we're going to take a look at that code, and it's going to give us much more objective information on what we're looking for. Let me resize this to get this a little bit bigger here. Okay, notice this is Mr. Code, okay? And so we begin with him. He's Gen 0. At the top, the first thing I want to do is identify whether or not he's a church or a church start. I don't use the G word anymore. It's either a church or a church start. I'm building that church identity into brand new churches right from the get-go. All right, so Mr. Code, he's facilitating a church. He has planted a church. He's also a believer. We'll see why that's important later on as we go. He's a baptizer. So he's baptized somebody. You can see he baptized Code Jr. All right, and then he started his training April 30th, 2014, and he's been through all 5 elements of the 4 fields. So entry, gospel, discipleship, church formation, and developing new trainers for the next generation. So this Mr. Code is pretty well trained, but what I want you to really notice is that I have some objective data that I can look at here for Mr. Code. Now, you can use any codes you want to identify and symbolize what's happening in your streams. Just make sure that they're simple. And another thing, the more things you add, the harder it is for the practitioner to keep track of, and the harder it is to get the information. Now, let's talk about something real quick as far as getting information. Jeff Sundell, my mentor, he emphasizes this all the time. Do not use gen maps as a reporting tool. Use gen maps to cast vision, identify stockages, coach, but don't use it as a reporting tool. When it becomes a reporting tool, people just get bogged down in all that. So instead of reporting, you want to do recording. So as you're doing the iron on iron with folks, draw out their maps and you start taking down information. And as a coach, if you want to keep that information, draw your own gen map of their streams and keep track of it so that you can coach them next time. All right, so recording versus reporting. All right, let's move to Code Junior here. What is he up to? Well, notice CS, that's a church start. So Mr. Code helped Code Junior get a new church start going. Now notice he's a believer, so he's got a cross, and he's got two asterisks here. The first asterisk is he came to Christ. The second asterisk is that he was baptized. And who was he baptized by? Mr. Code. All right, and this is really cool. Code Junior is already a baptizer. He started training on December 2nd, 2014, and he's been through fields 1 through 3 in the 4 fields strategy. So he's trained in entry, gospel, and discipleship. Now, Code Junior, good disciple maker, good trainer. He went out and led Bill to Christ. How do I know that he led Bill to Christ? Because there's a cross. He's got 1 asterisk for coming to Christ, and Code Junior baptized him. That's that second star there, asterisk. His name is Bill. He started training on the 28th of March 2015, as he's been taught field 1 to 2, entry and gospeling. So you can see how we keep track of this. Bill hasn't started his church yet. He doesn't have a new church start, and he hasn't baptized anybody. But if Bill were doing this, he'd be doing an oikos map at this point. And you can add that person's name, and it would just be a name, and maybe underneath you put stories of hope or something like that to indicate how far along he is with that far from God person. But these are the basic codes that you can use. Again, you can use any codes you want. But the reason why we use these codes is so that we have objective information. All right, hope this is helpful. We're going to move on to video number 2, diagnosing a good gen map.